We're beginning the Gemara today on Daf Lamed Gimel, about 5-6 lines from the top of the Yomid, where it says Tefillah. This Pedic began with the Mishnah that discusses regarding many different things that have to be said in Torah on different occasions. And the question is, does that have to be said Dafti in Lashon Kodesh, in the language that it says it in the Torah, or could it be said in any other language? So we're beginning today where it says Tefillah. Davening. So the Mishnah said davening could be in any language. Now davening refers, the chiyuv of davening is primarily in Shemay Nesra. It can be said in any language, and that includes the rest of davening as well. So the Gemara explains, Rachmihi, davening, you're begging Hashem for mercy. So therefore, kol heicha the boy matzli. However a person wants, he can daven right there. Tefillah, frek the Gemara. Tefillah b'chol loshen. Could a person daven in every language, literally in all languages? But Rav Yehuda said, La'olam al yishal adam tzarachav b'loshen aramis. A person should not daven in Aramaic. Why not? Because the Amar Rabbi Yechanan, kol hashoyel tzarachav b'loshen arami. If you ask for your needs in Aramaic, ein malachi hasharis niskaken loy. The malachi hasharis, now they bring up the tefillas of the Yidden to the Eibishter, and they will not attend to this tefillah that is in Aramaic. Because the Malachim do not understand Aramaic. Now this idea is brought in different places, also in Chassidus, explaining that the Malachim, they sort of take the tefillas of the Yidden, they cleanse it, they polish it, they bring it up, because a Yid is taka davening, but nevertheless it's gashmius, it's a guf that is davening, and therefore the mitzvahs and b'chlal and tefillah as well have to be elevated and brought to its source lamaila, and it goes through the malachim that elevate it and should become spiritual. But if so, the malachim they don't take the tefillahs that are on lashon arami. So the Gemara answers lo kasha. This is not a question. Ha biyochid. This that it says that a person should not daven in Aramaic. That's if he's davening alone. So over there, he needs the malachim to bring his tefillah up to its source. But But then if a person is davening with a minion, he's davening together with other Yidden, so in such a case, he doesn't need the assistance of the malachim to bring up his tefillah over here. And Yid davens b'tzibur, Rashi brings here the famous Gemara that brings from the pasuk, Hein keil kabri lo yimos, the Eibishter will never reject a tefillah that a Yid davens together with a tzibur. So that's why over there you could literally daven in any language, including Aramaic.
To be a chidus, a person should?
That's what it says there, yeah. So the Gemara asks on this, Ve'ein malachi asharis makirin b'loshen arami. Do the malachim not understand Aramaic? Tanya, what we learned in the Braisa, it says as follows: Yechanan kohen gadol shama bas kol mibeis kodesh hakadoshim. Yechanan kohen gadol, so he served in the second Beis Hamikdash, and he heard the following bas kol, a heavenly voice coming out of the kodesh hakadoshim, and it said shu omer, and it gave a good news that notzchu talia, that the young Kainim that went out to fight, they were victorious. The Ozlu la Agocha Krova, they went out to fight a battle la Antuchya, in the place of Antuchya. So here we see that this Baskail, which is a heavenly voice, which is coming from a Malach, is speaking in Aramaic. B'shuv Maisa, another time was also in the second Beis Hamikdash, B'shimon HaTzadik. Sheshama Baskail Mibeis Kodesh HaKadoshim. So he heard, we're in Daf Lamed Gimel, he heard of the heavenly voice also that came out from the Kodesh HaKadoshim, Shuhu Aimer, and this heavenly voice gave him the good news, B'teiles Ividita, it has been nullified, the Gzeira, the Gzeira that was made, the Omar, Sana, that the enemy said, La'isal Heichela, that he's going to come to the Heichel, to the Beis HaMikdash, to destroy the Beis HaMikdash, or to come to the Beis HaMikdash. And the Gzeira, I believe it says there, was that he would come to the Beis HaMikdash, and he wanted to put an Avodah Zarah into the Beis HaMikdash. Venerag Gaskalgas, and Gaskalgas, which was a king in Yavan, a Greek king, he died, he was killed. And all of his Gzeiras were nullified. And V'kosva Yisusha, they wrote that time when this Baskal came out, and V'kivnu, and it was exactly that time when he was killed. And again, we see the Baskal was in Aramaic. So how could you say that the Malachim do not understand this language? So the one answer is, one answer is Baskal Shani. The Malachim in general do not understand Aramaic, and that includes those Malachim that bring up the tefillas of the Yidden, do not understand. But a Baskal is different. The Baskal, that the Malach that is appointed for this koyach of a Baskal to give a heavenly message, he does speak in Aramaic, he does understand. Why? The Lashmuya Avida. The Baskal it's a power that's designated to give a message to people anywhere in the world, including people that are living in a place where they speak Aramaic. So therefore, this baskoil is a koyach that's able to speak in any and give the message in any language, including Aramaic. Another answer, Gavriel Hava. This baskoil came from Gavriel. So Gavriel does understand Aramaic. The master said and explained in another place that this is going to be later here in the Gemara actually. Ba Gavriel v'limdai shivim lashon. Gavriel came to Yosef HaTzadik when he wanted to learn all languages, when he was coming to speak to Parai, and he taught Yosef all languages. He didn't know Aramaic, and he taught him all 70 languages. So you see over here that Gavriel specifically, he knows all languages, including Aramaic.
So the problem is only Aramis or any other language?
Regarding who?
Regarding the Malachim, because it says he
they
knew all
understand.
70. So the other ones only knew 69 and didn't.
Yeah, exactly. They were missing that 70th language. So Dafka Gavriel, that knows all 70, he came to teach Yosef all 70 languages.
It doesn't say why the Aramis was left out.
Why is Aramis unique? Yeah. And that all that they don't know. The Gemara doesn't explain that. Yeah, Chanami.
Could be they don't know any of them.
Huh? What?
Maybe all Malachim don't know any language.
No, but it says, the Gemara before says that a person could daven in any language, and the only language the Gemara is questioning is Aramis, that the Malachim don't know Aramis. There is actually a discussion in the Rishonim about this. I think some Rishonim learned Pshat in the Gemara, that when it says here, Lashon Aramis, it doesn't mean that the Malachim don't understand it, literally. It just means that they don't want to. They don't want to use that language. They don't want to use that language. They ignore that language. Adarabah, because there's a certain chesaron with Lashon Aramis, maybe because it shows in the matzav of Golos that Eden were in Bavel, they didn't want to use that language. But the simple Pshat of the Gemara seems like that they did not understand this language. Okay, Birchas Hamazon, in the Mishnah it said that Birchas Hamazon, benching, could also be in any language. Says the Gemara Dechsiv, the Pasuk says, V'achalta, v'savata, uverachta, you eat, you're satisfied, you bench the Eibishter, Zavai lekecha, that's in any language. So according to Rashi, the Gemara is not bringing a specific source for the fact that uberachta means in any language, because it's self-understood. And unless you would have a source to say otherwise, berachta means to bench. So what does benching mean? It doesn't say dafkin lashon kodesh, or it could be in any language. Shvua seidos, the Mishnah said, when a person is swearing about a testimony, he's swearing that I do not know a testimony for you. That could also be in any language. So the Chsev or Rashi here actually is guidance in the Gemara Minolan. What's the source that this could be in every language? And why do we need a special source for this? Because Rashi over here says the Mishnah brought that regarding other situations, other things that you have to say, and it must be Dafkil Lashon Kodesh, it's learned from the brachas and the klalis that were said when Yidden came into Eretz Yisrael on Har Grizim and Har Eval, and that was said specifically in Lashon Kodesh. We learn from there to certain places that it has to be in Lashon Kodesh. Over here, if not for the pasuk the Gemara is about to bring, I would learn Shvua Se'edos from that event at Har Grizim and Har Eval, which Rashi also refers to as a Shvua. The Yidden sort of accepted an oath to fulfill Torah and mitzvahs. So therefore the Gemara is asking, from where do I know that this Shvua does not have to be in Lashon Kodesh? Because the pasuk says, V'nefesh ki sechta, when a soul that sins, V'shama koil Allah, there it means the person sins and he swears that I do not know a testimony for you, and he does. So it says the term over here, Vishama, v'cholashon shishemas. That means in any language that you can hear, so therefore that's the source, any language. Shvuas apikadon, similar halacha, when a person swears regarding an object, a deposit, and he says, I don't have it. So this as well could be in any language. Asya, we learn this from Shvuas Ha'edus that we just brought. Techta, over there it says the term Sechta, that the person sins, and it says over here Sechta as well by Shvuas Ha'pikatan. So we learn from Shvuas Ha'edus that this as well, in any language that a person swears, he'll be Oived Aveda. Now the Mishnah continued and said, Ve'elu nemarim b'lashon HaKodesh. The following have to be said specifically in Lashon Kodesh. Mikra bikurim, the chalitze, chulu. The Mishnah lists the things that are dafka in Lashon Kodesh ad until the Mishnah concludes and says, Mikra bikurim keitzad. What's the source that when you bring the bikurim to the Beis Hamikdash and the psukim that you have to say that it has to be said in Lashon Kodesh? Because it says va'nisa v'amarta lefnei Hashem elikecha. It doesn't just say va'amarta. It says va'nisa. Va'nisa usually means to answer. Why does it use that term over here? Because we learn out We learn out from when the Yidden wore by Har Grizim and Har Evel. So the Shvatim of Klal Yisrael, as the Mishnah described, were divided 6 on one mountain, another 6 on the other mountain, and then the Lekayanim and the Leviim were in the center. And it says Va'anu HaLeviim Va'amru El Kol Ish Yisrael. So over here it uses also this term of Va'anu. So we learn out Ma Aniyeh Ha'amur La'alam B'Lashon HaKodesh, just like the Aniyeh that it says there by Har Grizim and Har Evel was in Lashon Kodesh. Afkam b'Lashon Kodesh. So too by Bikurim, where it says Va'anisa, it should be in Lashon Kodesh. Here is a quote from the Mishnah. On this the Gemara asks, the Leviim Gufayu Minalan. There by the Leviim, when they spoke, how do we know that it wasn't Lashon Kodesh? Answers the Gemara Asya. Answers the Gemara Asya Koil Koil Mi Moshe. We learn out a Gzeira Shaveh from the term Koil that it says over here by the Leviim, and the term Koil that it says by Moshe. Ksiv Acha, over here it says Koil Ram, that the Leviim spoke in a loud voice. He says Koil. Ksiv Hasam, and it also says when the Eibusha speaks to Moshe Rabbeinu by Matan Torah, Moshe Yadaber V'Holikim Ya'anenu B'Koil. The Eibusha spoke and answered Moshe Rabbeinu B'Koil. The Eibusha spoke by Matan Torah, the Aseres HaDibros in Lashon Kodesh. Ma'ala Alon B'Lashon HaKodesh. The Eibusha speaks in Lashon Kodesh. Avkan. So too when the Leviim spoke by Har Grizim and Har Evel, they also spoke in Lashon Kodesh. And then we learn from there to the Bikurim as well that it should be in Lashon Kodesh. Then the Mishnah said Chalitza Ketzad. What's the source that Chalitza, both the Yavam and the Yavama, the man and the woman, have to say certain things? They have to say it all in Lashon Kodesh. What's the source for this? So the Gemara brought, the Mishnah that is, brought a machlekes about this. One opinion is that by the Chalitza as well, the pasuk uses a term of va'ansa va'amra, va'ansa. So because it says this term va'ansa, we learn it out from the Bikurim or from Har Grizim and Har Evel, that over there it says va'anu, that it's in Lashon Kodesh. But then the Rabbanan say that's the Rabbanan actually. And Rabbi Yehuda says, no, it says in the Torah va'ansa va'amra kacha. You don't need the Gzeira Shaveh of aniyeh. You learn it out from the word kacha. Kacha means like this, you have to say it in Lashon Kodesh. So the Gemara now will explain what each one of these opinions does with the other drasha that he does not use. But Rabbanon, so according to the Rabbanon, hi kacha, mayavdile. Since he doesn't learn from the word kacha, so it's extra, what does he learn from it? Answers the Gemara, mi boyeluhu, they learn out from here, l'davar shehu maise, the details that are mentioned in the Torah by chalitza, which is an action, ma'akiv. It must be done. So in the pasuk it says, va'onsa va'omra kacha yeyaseh. So because it says kacha yeyaseh, so it's saying kacha to say that the description in the pasuk, that the spitting and the taking off of the shoe, those are actions that are done, it's ma'akiv. Every detail is ma'akiv and must be done. But Rabbi Yehuda says, mikoi kacha. Rabbi Yehuda says that from the word kacha you can learn two things. Could have said koi would mean like this, which would mean Lashon Kodesh. It says kacha, that means both. It has to be in Lashon Kodesh, and also this point that it's ma'akiv, the actions are ma'akiv. But Rabbanon koi kacha limashmalo. This extra, this drasha that it could have said koi and it says kacha, that the hold is not extra, and they don't learn that out. Now on the other hand, Rabbi Yehuda, according to Rabbi Yehuda, he does not learn the Gzeira Shaveh from what it says va'ansa va'amra. So this extra word va'ansa va'amra that it says by chalitza, what is he mayavidle? What does he learn out from this? Answers the Gemara mi boyale. He actually learns out from here as follows: La gemure leleviim de b'lashon hakodesh. According to Rabbi Yehuda, the source that by Har Grizim and Har Evel that the Leviim spoke in Lashon Kodesh is not learned from the Koil that we brought before, from Moshe Rabbeinu, from Matan Torah, but it's actually learned here from the mitzvah of Chalitza. Here it says Kacha, so we know that Chalitza is in Lashon Kodesh, and it says Va'ansa, so we learn to Va'anu of Leviim Va'amru, that over there was also Lashon Kodesh. Frag the Gemara, V'leile of Koil Mim Moshe. Why does he learn out the Gzeira Shaveh we mentioned before from by Moshe, by Matan Torah, that the Eibusha spoke in Lashon Kodesh? Answers the Gemara, Aniyeh Gomer. The Gzeira Shaveh to learn out from Chalitza, the terms Aniyeh, that he learned. That he had a tradition from his Rebbe to learn this Gzeira Shaveh. Koil loy Gomer. The Gzeira Shaveh to learn the word Koil here, from the word Koil that it says in Matan Torah, that he didn't receive this Kabbalah, he didn't learn this from his Rebbe. Rashi here brings the rule of Gzeira Shaveh is you cannot learn Gzeira Shaveh on your own. Gzeira Shaveh is a halacha l'Moshe Misinai that you have to receive from your Rebbe, that and they can't just take two words in the Torah and start making a Gzeira Shaveh. So he had this Kabbalah from his Rebbe.
He puts a word by Chalitza to worry about what's going to be by the Levium.
Correct. What's the problem? The mitzvah of chalitza.
What's to do with
No, nothing to do. The mitzvah of chalitza was said already where in Parshas Kiseitze, and then when Yidden came into Eretz Yisrael, after they already got that mitzvah, the Yidden came into Eretz Yisrael, so they learned out from the word koil that it says there, or from the word aniyah that it says there, to the word aniyah that it says by the Levim, that we know that it wasn't Lashon Kodesh. Okay, the Gemara continues now, brings a raya to this, that Rabbi Yehuda does not hold of the Gzeir Shaveh, koil. Because Tanya Nami Yachi, we learned in Abraisa, Rabbi Yehuda says, Kol Mokim Shenema. Here he lists those terminologies in Torah that mean Dafke and Lashon Kodesh. So wherever the Torah says Koi, Kacha, Aniyeh, Va'amire, Ein Ela Lashon Kodesh. In those cases, it has to be said Dafke and Lashon Kodesh. Koi is Koi Sevarchu, that's by Berchas Kayanim, that has to be in Lashon Kodesh. Kacha is the Kacha, the Chalitza in Lashon Kodesh, and Aniyeh Va'amire, the Leviim, that also has to be in Lashon Kodesh. So he doesn't bring the term Koil. So you see that his source is from the term Aniyeh and not from the term Koil, like the Rabbanim. The next part of the Mishnah spoke about this event by Har Grizim and Har Eval, where the Yidden stood on both of these mountains, and there was the brachas and the klalos that were said. The Leviim stood in the middle. So here, this Braisa is going to bring the details of this story, and it's actually going to focus on the location, the exact location. Where in Eretz Yisrael is this? Tana Rabbanu, we learned in the Braisa, the pasuk describes and says, "Haloi heima be'ever hayarden," and they are on the other side of the Yarden. Now, what does be'ever hayarden mean? Me'ever leyarden ve'elech. This is far from the Yarden. When they crossed over the Yarden, the place of Har Grizim and Har Evel is not right on the other side of the Yarden, but it's far, distant. Going, you have to travel further into Eretz Yisrael. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. This is what Rabbi Yehuda says. So now he teaches the other pasuk or the continuation of the pasuk here that it describes. Achrei derech mevoy hashemesh. This is achrei. Achrei means far away from the place where the mevoy hashemesh is. What does mevoy hashemesh mean? Makaim shecham zerachas. Mevoy hashemesh means the place where the sun rises, where the sun shines. Okay, so what does that mean? The place where the sun rises is on Mizrach, on the east. Now, when Yidden are coming into Eretz Yisrael, they, on the other side of the Yarden, when they're in the Midbar, Yidden are on the east of the Yarden. When they come into Eretz Yisrael is on the west of the Yarden. So when Yidden come into Eretz Yisrael, so they have to go further in towards the west. Achrei means far away from the place, from the direction where the sun rises, which is on the east. So therefore, from this we understand that Achrei over here means far away from the east. They cross over into Eretz Yisrael, which is on the west, and they go further in. That's what the pasuk is saying here. The Eretz HaKanani HaYeshiv Ba'arava. The pasuk continues and says that this is Eretz HaKanani, which sits Ba'arava in a plain, in an area without mountains. Elu Har Grizim v'Har Eval. So over there in this flat area, there was two mountains, Har Grizim and Har Eval. Sheyeshvim behem Kutiyim. And later on, the Kutiyim were brought over there to that place. This is in the time of the first Beis HaMikdash, when Sancherev expelled 10 of the Shvatim from Eretz Yisrael, and instead he brought the Goyim from a place of Kuta, and he brought them to Eretz Yisrael, and he placed them over there in this area in Shemrein, which is by Har Grizim and Har Eval. Mul HaGilgal, then the pasuk says, opposite the Gilgal, Samuch LeGilgal. This is near or opposite the place of the Gilgal. Eitzel Eloine Moire, and then the pasuk says, Eitzel Eloine Moire. Where is this? Eloine Moire. This is Shechem. This is near Shechem. Well, there's another pasuk that says this by Avram Avinu, Vayaver Avram Ba'aretz Ad Mekoim Shechem Ad Eloine Moire. So Ma Eloine Moire Amul Alon Shechem, just like by Avram Avinu, it says Eloine Moire over there, it means Shechem. Avkan Shechem. So too over here, the Eloine Moire means Shechem. Okay, so we're comparing it to what it says by Avram. In other words, if we wouldn't compare it, then you have a lot of times regarding cities in Eretz Yisrael, there could be two places that have the same name. There could be Elam Meira in one place, Elam Meira in another place. So the Gemara is saying, no, we know that we compare the Elam Meira that it says here to the Elam Meira that it says by Avram, and that therefore it's Shechem. Now Tanya, we learned in the Braise, or Rashi actually takes out Tanya. This is a continuation of the same Braise here. The Gemara stops sort of with a side point regarding these Kutiyim. Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Yosi said, with this point, Ziyafti Sifrei Kutiyim. I falsified the understanding of the Sefer Torah of the Kutiyim. These Kutiyim, they were Megayer, but they did not follow Torah mitzvahs properly. And one of the main things was they read the Chumash and understood it the way they understood it, and they did not follow the interpretation of the Chachamim of the Yidden. So therefore, Rabbi Elazar Reisi said that I falsified their understanding of the Torah. Amarti lehem, I said to them as follows: Ziyaftem teiraschem, you have falsified the Torah, v'le'aleisem b'yetchem klum, but you haven't brought up with your own understanding anything in the Torah. You can't rely on your own understanding of the Torah. Now these Kutiyim, what was one of the main things that they did? They created the Beis HaMikdash, and they created a whole center over there in this place in Shomron, in Har Gerizim and Har Evel. Could we still see some remnants of it until today? Huh? Oh, they're even there till today. There's some people that okay, whatever. So Al Kopanim, so these Kutiyim, they said, if you look over there in the Psukim, Rashi brings it over here. I think Rashi brings it over here. That over there, there's Psukim that it says over there that when you come to Har Evel, you should bring Karbanis over there. The Eibush chooses this place to bring Karbanis. So they interpreted it and said, what this means is that this is the center that you should establish, and there should be a Beis HaMikdash there. That's how they said it. So now Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Yossi said to them, how do you know where this location is? It says Har Gerizim Har Evel, and it says that it's by Eloinei Meira, but where is Eloinei Meira? So you interpret and say, you know where Eloinei Meira is? It's by Shechem. So he said to them, we also agree that Eloinei Meira that the pasuk is speaking about here is Shechem, but we learned out that this Eloinei Meira here in the pasuk is Shechem. We learned it out from Gzeira Shava. We have a tradition that teaches us that the Eloinei Meira that says here and the Eloinei Meira that it says by Avram means Shechem. But you that reject all of our methods of learning Torah and you just understand it on your own, how are you learning out that the Eloinei Meira over here means Shechem? So you're on one hand, you're taking what it says in the Psukim, and it says here in the Psukim that you bring Karbanis there, and therefore you establish a place over there, the whole Beis HaMikdash they built there, and at the same time, if you look in the Psukim, you can't understand where the location is. If you're not going to accept our Piddish, the Gzeira Shava, that it means Shechem. So therefore, their understanding of Torah was, so to speak, falsified because they're forced to rely on the Chachamim's understanding. And therefore they have to rely on what the Chachamim say, that this is not a place to be permanently used for a Beis HaMikdash. Eibush says you bring the Karbanis over there at that time, but later on, the place for the Beis HaMikdash is in Yerushalayim. Okay, this is a side point regarding the Kutiyim. They made their center in that place. The Gemara comes back now to the psukim that are brought before, Halehema Be'eva Yarden. It describes where Har Gerizim and Har Evel is, and it says that it was Be'eva Yarden. So it brings now a different opinion about this. So before the first opinion of this Braisa, which was Rabbi Yehuda, he said that Har Gerizim and Har Evel is a certain distant place going into Eretz Yisrael, not right when you cross the Yarden. Rabbi Elazar says, no, Halehema Be'eva Yarden means when you cross the Yarden, Samuch LeYarden. It actually means it's an area right when you cross the Yarden. And he explains his reason, because the Imei Vayarden Ve'elech, if you're going to say like Rabbi Yehuda, that it's further in, far, when you go into Eretz Yisrael. But, Halek Siv, the Pasuk says regarding this, V'hoya ba'avrechem es Yarden, as soon as you cross the Yarden. So it means, as soon as you cross the Yarden, the Yidden will find Har Gerizim and Har Evel right there, and that's where the Yidden will have this whole event of the Brachas and the Klalas. So you can't say that it's further away. So now, according to Rabbi Elazar, when it says Achrei Derech Mevoy Hashemesh, what does Mevoy Hashemesh mean? Before we said Mevoy Hashemesh means the rising of the sun, and it's saying that it's far from the east where the sun rises. But according to Rabbi Elazar's pshat, it's not far from the east; it's right by the east. As soon as the Yidden cross the Yarden, the most eastern part of Eretz Yisrael, right there by the Yarden, that's where the Har Gerizim and Har Evel is. So therefore, he says Mevoy Hashemesh means Mokayim Shacham Shekas. This actually, Mavai is the place where the sun sets. So that's on the Maida. And this is saying that the Har Gerizim and Har Evel is distant from the west of Eretz Yisrael. It's all the way by the east, right by the Yarden. Then the pasuk says, Be'eretz HaKenani. Again, it was quoted before. The same pasuk, it says that this is an Eretz HaKenani. Eretz Chivihi. This is Eretz Chivi because the Chivi, Eretz Yisrael is called in general Eretz HaKenani, but there was really 7 nations that were there. And one of them was Chivi, and they lived in Shechem. That's what Rashi says here, which is interesting because, according to Rabbi Yehuda before, we said that this is Shechem, and Shechem is not right by the Yarden. It's further into Eretz Yisrael. But Rashi here says that according to Rabbi Elazar as well, this area is called Shechem. So it looks like that there's an area near the Yarden as well that's also called Shechem. Two different Shechems maybe. Then the pasuk says, Hayoshev Ba'arava, this is sitting on a flat land. But the question is, if you go near the Yarden, this is not a flat land at all. This is an area full of mountains. So how could you refer to this area as Arava? Then it says Mul HaGilgal, that it's opposite the Gilgal. But the question is, Gilgal. But they don't. If it's in this area here, they don't see the Gilgal at all. Okay, so this is something that I'm not sure about. This is something that's not clear over here, because if you look in the Psukim of Yeshua, so the Gilgal actually is right near the Yarden. It describes there in the Psukim when the Yidden came from the Yarden and they built the Mizbech, the Gilgal is right near the Yarden. So here the Gemara is saying that the Gilgal is not near the Yarden. Before, in Rabbi Yehuda's opinion, it said Mula Gilgal, that's near Shechem, which is far from the Yarden. Here, when it speaks about the Gilgal and it's near the Yarden, it says no, the Gilgal is not near the Yarden. But it's if you look in the Psukim, like I said, it's problematic, because in the Psukim it actually describes Gilgal being near the Yarden. Okay, be it as it may, these are questions that Rabbi Lazar is asking on his own opinion. I say that you can prove from the pasuk that this area is right near the Yarden, but there are certain descriptions here in the pasuk which indicate that it's not near the Yarden. So how do we answer this? So the Gemara brings that Rabbi Lazar relied on Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov to answer this. So Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov said, Leiba Kosov. With all these descriptions here, the pasuk is not coming to say the location. Rather, Elolaharis lehen derech b'shnia. The pasuk here is coming to show Yidden a pathway. It's giving Yidden a direction where they should go. B'shnia. B'shnia means the second stage, really, meaning when they come into Eretz Yisrael. Kederech sheheralem b'rishayna. Just like Yidden, they able to show them the pathway the first time. First time meaning when Yidden left Mitzrayim. When Yidden left Mitzrayim, so what did they have? They had the Ananiya Kovid, or a fiery cloud that went ahead of them and showed them the way where to go. When Yidden came into Eretz Yisrael, so the Ananiya Kovid were removed. So now the Eibush is showing them a direction and a pathway where they should go when they come into Eretz Yisrael. When it says in the pasuk derech means baderech l'chu. Go on the paved road. V'loy b'sadis akramim. Don't go in fields or in vineyards. Just go conquer the land, go through the roads. Hayeshiv, when it says in the pasuk the word hayeshiv, it means b'yishuv l'chu. Go in the cities, in the settled areas. V'loy b'midbaris. Don't go into the deserts. Then when it says ba'arava means a plain. Ba'arava l'chu. V'loy b'harim megvois. Don't go in mountainous areas. It's going to be difficult for you to travel there. So the pasuk is sort of paving them and telling them a way where to go. So the Gemara doesn't spell out very clearly over here. But what the question the Gemara had before was regarding this term Gilgal, that it says, where is this Gilgal? The Gemara doesn't spell this out, but apparently what it's saying is also the pasuk is giving them sort of a direction that you should go opposite the place where the Gilgal is. That's the pathway you should go. That's the Chayr, the pshat over here. Okay, Akapan, the conclusion over is we have a Machlekes Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Lazar where exactly this Har Grizim and Har Evel is. Is it by where Shechem is today, which is further away from the Yarden, or is it right when you cross the Yarden, right over there in the Mizrach, all the way at the Mizrach of Eretz Yisrael?